Big crowd.
Jeez, I'm sorry.
Are we all set? All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:13, and if we could all stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at our April meeting each year is reorganization of the board. So at this time, I'll take a nomination for board chair.
Motion for Martin to be the board chair.
Second,
I second that.
Martin,
Sure.
you'll assume the duties, okay?
You really sure?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Martin, you are chair. The meeting is yours.
All right. All right.
It's really loud. You
That's really hot. Thanks for electing me chair. Big shoes to fill. I think you've done it now for 6 years. We found out, right? 6 years.
Something like that.
So if I get anything wrong, please make
correct.
sure. I want this to go down orderly. I would entertain a motion for a vice chair.
Motion for Jenna Reardon. Any second?
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on. Secretary, do we need a secretary? Yes. All right, I will entertain a motion for a secretary.
Also, I just want to mention, you are secretary for SAU.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh,
Oh,
did they
somebody
tell
told
you?
me in the meeting?
We just
re-elected you.
I know, I
We
am
renewed you.
I am
And you're
every
off-
year.
You don't have to do the finance, but you're on policy.
Policy and secretary.
Awesome.
Okay, secretary?
Motion for Angela.
Nominate Angela.
Do you get a second?
I'll second it if Jenna first did it.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Announcements. Any announcements?
Yeah, just a couple. First, we have some new and returning school board reps. So Ava Populars is joining us. She's a freshman at Bohai. And Matthew Mampura is here. He was reelected. So I met with them earlier today, so I'm looking forward to having them with us on the board. The other thing is that the assurances, we are going to push that back to May. We're not quite ready for that, so.
Welcome to our student school board members. I thought it was actually great that they presented articles at the meeting. That was pretty cool.
You did a great job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that passed without hesitation.
Right.
Right. All right, moving on to minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 6th?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any discussions on the minutes?
Looked perfect. Where's Wendy? Nice work. As always.
I had one question. Is Judson's name really
or
good?
two.
One or two Ds? Or one or two Ds?
Is he here?
Okay. 'Cause it was twice and there were two Ds, so then I was like, the first time I was like, I think that's wrong, and the second time I was like, I think I'm wrong. Okay.
Okay.
As somebody who has a name that's always wrong, we're used to it. It's spelled wrong, that's the way it is.
Okay. Any other discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to special presentations, educational focus, seniors K-12 experiences.
Sure. So we try to get students in front of you as much as we can. And so we have 4 seniors, Bow School District, but also live in Bow. And we're just having them here to talk about their experiences and things they've been able to participate in. And even things that you didn't like, that's okay to share too. So I'm going to have you introduce yourselves.
Do we want to have them go up to the podium so that their parents can see them?
However you're comfortable. Yeah.
Did I just say my name? Yeah. I'm Hannah. I'm Brianna.
I'm Katie.
I'm Adam.
So Adam, since you have the mic, do you want to start by just kind of sharing a little bit about yourself and what your things you participated in, what your plans are for next year?
Sure. I'm going to be studying engineering in college next year, and at Bow, I've played baseball and basketball.
I participate at Bow in a lot of different clubs and activities. My main things are probably tennis and theater, though, and next year I'm going to Dartmouth College to study biological sciences.
So I'm part of Unified Soccer and Basketball here at Bow. I also do health science over at CRTC, and next year I'm going to the University of Hartford for a doctorate in physical therapy.
I run track and cross country here at Bow, and I'm going to Bates College next year. I'm not quite sure what I'm studying, though.
Feel free to jump in if you have any questions, but can you think of anything in particular, and it doesn't have to be high school, that has kind of shaped your experience in Bow? Any one of you?
So I guess my main thing that I really liked about Bow is the extracurricular opportunities, which I kind of just mentioned a little bit, but I think at a lot of high schools it's hard to do multiple things, especially in the same season, like doing a sport. And theater, for example, can be really hard. So that's been a really great opportunity, I think, at Bow specifically, to be able to do both of those things in the spring for me with tennis and theater. So yeah, that's one of the main things.
I think for me, it's also like the academic side to it too. I've been able to take like a lot of like college classes that like are just helping me get a leg up for next year, and also being able to like go over to CRTC and do something that I love and like learn about like health science and like exercise science, just to kind of like prepare me for my major next year and like my future career.
It was just things that we enjoy about. Honestly, I feel like the teachers are all really good and engaging, and they make the classes entertaining too. So
I feel like we're able to like build good relationships with our teachers. Like we're able to just like go and sit down in like our teachers' rooms, like if they're free. Like it's not very, I don't know, like we feel the support every like, day, I guess.
And yeah, I want to second the teacher thing. I think kind of adding on to that, the flex time that's available in the morning, all the teachers are very open about that, and they give their flex times at the beginning of the school year. So any students that have questions, comments, anything they need to handle with their teacher, they're able to do. So I think that's a great way that teachers are kind of proactively reaching out to their students and allowing for them to get the help they need.
Yeah, one thing I've really appreciated is that a lot of classes offer dual enrollment, so I've managed to get a bunch of college credits, and it'll save me some time and money in college.
Let me ask you guys a quick question. Matt's, your principal, Fisk, has been trying to work a little bit on school spirit, and I think you guys in particular are a class where, were you 8th grade when COVID hit? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Seventh or 8th, like, so March of your 7th grade year. So from our perspective, particularly school spirit, it feels like COVID kind of made that go away, and not just in Bow, but it feels like, Adam, you know, I'm sure, or Bree from like basketball games and things like, before, because I have 2 kids in college, and the school spirit, it feels like, and I use basketball as an example, was so much more intense, I felt, pre-COVID, and it was just a couple of years there, and Matt's been trying to do what he can, he feels like, to try and to build that school spirit back up, and so really, it's a long-winded way of asking, do you feel, as you leave, that the school spirit is better than it was when you entered the high school, or do you have any thoughts on how, or does it matter, I guess, do you care? But is that something Principal Fisk should continue to work towards getting back to a higher level, basically?
So yeah, you guys can speak to this with sports games wise. But I do want to say, I think Mr. Fisk has been doing a good job, especially with the monthly school meetings we've been having, of pushing different groups and stuff like that. So whether it's the Music in the Schools month we did, and we had the piano player come in, I think those pushes are great, and I think those have started to kind of heal the school spirit and force everyone to just come together and watch something and bond over it. So yeah.
Yeah, that piano thing was really cool, but I've also noticed that there's a lot more kids at assemblies. In the past, a lot of kids will skip them, but this year there have been more kids showing up.
Yeah, it was definitely great to see all the people showing up, but I feel like part of that is because like they're forced to. So I think it'd be great to like work to the point where people show up when they're not forced to. Yeah, I agree with that. If you look at like Bow Olympics the past couple years, the bleachers were completely empty. Like nobody really wanted to be there, I guess, because like we had open campus, so like we could just leave. But with like these community meetings, like our open campus goes away, so like we have to be here. And then it's like people not necessarily don't want to come, but they come and then they're like, oh, like I had fun. So, and I think it's also a great opportunity for like to kind of have our classes like blast out the messages to everybody so that everybody hears it rather than just getting like an email and hoping that people read it, I guess.
I have a question. So I've heard a couple of different things. So I've heard that there is a great community in Bow at the high school, and that even people like sit with some kids that aren't necessarily in their group or things like that. But I know that I've also heard some people say like that there's an issue with bullying. And I'm sure like there's all sorts of things. But when you think about your time in Bow, what would you say is one thing that we could work on, that we could grow and become better in?
No one's going to want to touch that one.
Nothing's a fine answer.
There's nothing we could do to become, like to give you something that you would have loved to have. If you could like go back in time and you walk into these doors for the first time and you say, I really wish.
Yeah, I guess touching a little bit on the school spirit thing again. I remember in like 8th grade, we had our field trips canceled due to COVID. And then I remember when my brother was going through, they did more of that and kids would show up and there'd be a lot of kids going. And they tried to do a class trip. I remember, I think my freshman year and sophomore year, and I don't think anybody went. And I guess it would be cool to see more kids go to something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say a little bit about, I guess, community-wise and interactions among students. I think it's definitely gotten better, but I think COVID did do a kind of great deal of separating people. So there is still a divide between, I guess, different groups of kids that are interested in different things. But I think there is a good middle ground of people that are interested in, you know, sports and other stuff that would, you know, normally be considered separate in like a high school movie you would see. But I think there is definitely still a split, and I think some people on different ends of the spectrum are gonna view kids, like say for example, if someone was involved more closely in performing arts, stuff like that, they may view the sports kids as, you know, kind of separate to them. But I think, again, like I said, Mr. Fisk has been doing a great job of, you know, showcasing each of these different groups of people and showcasing that, you know, we're all alike. We all are in the same classes. We all do similar things, and kind of pushing that out even in the weekly emails he sends out. I think that has been kind of a good way to show people how to connect with others.
Yeah, kind of touching upon what Katie said, like I feel like our freshman year, it was like if you played sports, you were with like kind of like the sports kids. If you were part of performing arts, you were with performing arts kids, and you didn't really see a bunch of like crossover, and like, not that they weren't really friends, but like you just kind of coexisted with them. But I think now, especially like kids in our grade, like we have kids who are in the play or in the musical also play sports, and I feel like we're just, I guess, more united as a school.
Yeah, I feel like the plays, like for performing arts, have definitely gone up. Like they had, like, you might know this better, but they had lots of attendance the past couple of years, and like just like looking at the senior benches in the hallway, sometimes you'll see groups of kids from like any type of situation. They're all like sitting there together, and like even in the lobby, you rarely see people like sitting alone. And I came to Bow in 9th grade, and like I found a group of friends the first day, and like I'm still great friends with all of them. So yeah.
Well, we've been trying to get a few things off the ground with, for example, Lori, I don't see Lori. Oh, there's Lori. The elementary school principal and myself and some others are trying to get like a presentation for new parents that are having kids starting out in elementary school, like what looking back, what I know about school and things I would do differently to teach them sort of things. And along those lines, we're also trying to do the same thing with students. And would the four of you be willing to come back here and basically sit here in Christmas time, in December, after you've been at college for a semester, and be able to say to the high school kids and the administration, like, listen, this is what college is really like, and I wish I'd learned X, Y, and Z in high school so Bo can learn to do a better job of things. I know I've got a daughter who's a sophomore in college. I know one thing that she struggled with initially, in particular, was writing. I know she felt she didn't get as good of a writing background at Bow High School as she wished she had. I know she goes to school with a lot of kids that went to boarding schools, and I know she felt the first semester to catch up to their level of academics was a challenge. But after the first semester, it's as if, the same as everyone else. But would you be willing to do that? Or, well, we'll see. We'll talk in December. But anyway, think about it.
Yeah, that's something we've actually talked about with school counseling, is to have recent graduates come back and let us know, did you feel prepared? Where didn't you feel prepared? Because that helps us kind of inform what we're doing at the high school.
Yeah, and prepare the other students that are anxious, right? You're about to head off, do a new adventure, and then when you come back and you're all wizened and old and you have all that experience behind you, you can look into their eyes and reassure them or scare them more.
Any other questions for our seniors? I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
That was really helpful. Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
You don't have to stay. You're welcome to go.
All right, moving on. Moving on to public comment. Public comment?
Judd's not here.
Yeah. Ben? No? No? I'm trying to call people out like you used to.
Yeah, that's good.
I like it.
You're doing a great job.
Off to a good start.
Moving on, SAU Administrator Reports. Superintendent Marcy.
I would just add, I know Owen touched on it in his report, and I think I mentioned it to you in our SAU meeting, but it was a really, really great PD day in March. We had a lot of great feedback, learned a ton from one another during our unconference, so I'm looking forward to hopefully doing that again. There's a number of pieces of legislation that I'm sure you've seen through New Hampshire School Board Association. Dwayne's touching on a couple. We sat in on a webinar today with Health Trust regarding HB 297. So Dwayne will talk more about that when he gets there. But I just really wanted to highlight March because that was a great, great day.
Any questions for Marcy?
Yeah, I was wondering, you guys were planning at our last meeting to go to Bedford for
We did,
the
yep.
AI?
Yep, we did that. A group of us representing each school and administration went and visited Bedford High School for a couple hours. I forgot the day, but one day, and we were able to talk to their teachers, see how they're using it, see what their academic integrity policy looks like, talk about how they rolled it out. And we definitely, I would say, across the board, learned a lot. We had, as everywhere, we have naysayers, right? And those naysayers came, and they heard from Bedford's naysayers, right? And how can we learn from how can we embrace this because it's here? And so actually, The high school had their staff forum yesterday, and they had a breakout group around AI, and those high school teachers who went to Bedford led it and shared some really great information with the staff. So looking forward to a process over the summer to start to intentionally roll it out. This year was really exploration for us, but to intentionally roll it out next year.
Any other questions for Marcy? Moving on to Dwayne.
So my first thing that I want to talk about tonight is the closeout of the elementary school project. So for us, if you remember, there's multiple components to that project, but the construction expense part of that was $11.8 million. So the fact that we're now at substantial completion, really now we just have summer projects to go. So just an update on that. We've come in under what our construction budget was by about $230,000, which is great news. We have a couple contingency things so that number, if anything, would go down a little bit, and instead of being 230, it could be more like 250. But 230 is the least that it will be. In addition, for that, as part of that $230,000 left, we have some summer work that we still need to do, and it's not really a proposal to you, it's more information about what we're going to do this summer, just to make sure that everybody is aware and on board and knows what's happening. So we still have the transformer swap out to do, which is going to happen hopefully in June. Both the elementary school and the memorial school have no power for probably a week. While we do that, because we have to shut everything off from the road. We want to finish the rest of our flooring as part of the project. We haven't been able to do the hallways, for example, in the cafeteria, because those were really high traffic areas during the actual construction. So that'll happen over the summer. As part of that, some areas of the building haven't been painted, so we're going to finish that. Get all the areas that haven't been painted are going to be done over the summer. And then kind of a newish thing for the project, we were able to, within that construction budget, replace in the oldest part of the building the blinds in all of the classrooms. So that's part of the project as well. I think when we get done with all of those things, I think basically every single learning space in that building is going to look pretty new. And the intent is that they're all going to kind of fold in together so that, yes, you're going to know you're in the brand new edition. Like, you know what those classrooms are going to look like. But if you're in a classroom in the 1979 original part of that building, our hope is that you're going to look at that and you're going to be basically in what is a pretty brand new learning space. So it's very exciting for us. Our intent is by the opening day of school next year, we're going to have every part of that project is going to be done and closed out. And then at some point, we'll have a final accounting of that project, including owner's rep, architecture fees, and what we actually used of the contingency, our local contingency, which I think is tracking to be very much, we're not going to use anywhere close to the whole $500,000 authorization that's in place. I think we're going to use actually quite a small amount of that when we get done with the project, which is great news, I think. So that's the project. If you have any questions, please let me know. A bunch of projects, again, we kind of start, it's kind of like rolling the ball up the hill that guy in Greek mythology did. So we start at the beginning. Again, we had a lot of projects approved at the March meeting. Very exciting. We've got the ball rolling on basically all of those. Bunch of phone calls went out to vendors we had lined up to hopefully do those projects if they passed. Once they passed, we've got those going out. So very exciting for us. It's going to be busy again. Our expectation is that we're going to have those projects done, as quickly but as well as possible. So we've got those going, and that's exciting. And then in my report, I put two bills that have a pretty good amount of of potential impact to us as a school district, both us and then statewide as well. The House bill that I put in the packet is about a state-imposed tax cap on all school districts in the state. Their last legislative session, there was the ability for local school districts to pass a tax cap on their own warrant. Several districts have proposed that. I'm not aware of many, if any, that have passed. So this is basically taking that and having the state impose a tax cap calculation on all school districts in the state. So the bill is in there. It's pretty complex how the calculation works. So that bill is active up in Concord. And then the other bill that I talked about is something that I think, has been in the papers. We belong to the two largest insurance risk pools in the state: Health Trust for health insurance and dental insurance, Primex for property liability, workers' comp, and unemployment insurance. Really, the most news has been around Health Trust and how they provide employee benefits. They provide employee benefits for over 300 political subdivisions in the state, including us. We've been with them for decades. As part of negotiations this year, we got pricing from one of the other risk pools, School Care. But there is more oversight being proposed from the Secretary of State's office on all insurance risk pools in the state. And Health Trust response to that legislation is that if it passes in its current amended form, they will cease operations June 30, 2026. Now, that was a pretty, in my mind, disturbing email to get on a Friday at 3:30. When I read that, I was, I don't think I thought about it all weekend, but it was something I thought about, because that's a really significant thing for us, because that, health insurance is an incredibly important benefit for our employees. I think Health Trust does a lot of really good things in terms of costs and things like that, but we can all improve. And so the additional oversight, I don't think, is something that I wouldn't disagree with, but I thought that that response was pretty surprising. So the bill is in the House right now. It passed the Senate in an amended version. I put that amended version in the board packet, and we'll see where it goes in the House. And then if something like that does happen, that's obviously going to be, some things that we have to do, internally, administratively. But a lot of entities are going to be in the same boat. So we will deal with whatever happens, as we do with other pieces of legislation. But this was one that I thought you should at least see what the bill is. So,
Would you have to go out like any other company and just?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and we're not alone. We have, between the two districts, we have 3 collective bargaining agreements. Every single one of them mentions Anthem Insurance specifically in the contract, or equivalent. There's some equivalent language in there. So yeah, we would need to, look at a variety of things. Obviously, the other insurance pool is something that we looked at during negotiations. I think we kind of said that we were going to do that anyway, but it came up during negotiations, and so we looked at that route. There's private insurance. One of the things that we would have to deal with that would be pretty significant for our office, because obviously our office isn't this gigantic office, is right now, as part of Health Trust's services to members, they do our COBRA administration, retiree billing and administration, FSA and HRA, behind the scenes admin, and being the TPA and everything like that. So it's a lot. That's a lot of things that you have to find the right person who would help you with all of that. So and then dental is a whole another thing as well. So we'd have to work. We'd have to do some work, which is fine. That's what we do. But I want to keep
you informed on that, and we'll kind of keep tracking that bill. But at some point as well, I mean, open enrollment is coming up, and, I don't have a lot of information on it because we don't know what's going to happen, but I also, this isn't my bag in terms of like legislation and the corporate structure of an insurance pool. That's not what I do, but, I'm sure we'll get some questions about it as it becomes more and more kind of out there.
So if I'm understanding correctly, Dwayne, I'm sorry. So if I understand correctly, so if we have this tax cap,
Oh, back to the tax cap.
well, no, I'm
Yep.
just like talking how one
Yep.
can
Absolutely.
impact the other. So if we have to then go find other health insurances, we know what we faced, what was it, last year? When there was
Yep.
such an increase.
Sure.
And if there's less companies to bargain with, so my question is that could have like serious implications
Absolutely.
for the services we provide for
Yes.
everything.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's in the state tax cap language, there's override provision in there, but it's a 2/3 vote to override whatever that calculation is.
2/3 vote by whom?
2/3 vote by the people who are at your meeting, or if you're an SB2 town, 2/3 of the votes that are cast, so you need 2/3 yes. There is no other warrant article right now in place that requires that threshold for passage. There's 3/5 language that's required to pass long-term borrowing, like bond issues and things. So when we did the elementary project, we needed a 3/5 majority to have approval for that project. And I think, the main reason for that is when you're borrowing long-term, you are basically telling future meetings that you need to pay this back. So that does need, I think, my opinion, that does need a threshold higher than 50%. But this would require 2/3 to override. The calculation is in the bill. There's a couple different ways that I've seen people calculate it. It uses a CPI average measurement over 5 years, which is kind of a, I think we look at that, but that's not something that we really, factor in when we're doing budgeting, because schools are so, different from year to year. You can have these wild swings through nothing that you did differently, no programmatic changes, really no student enrollment changes. You can have a student move in that's very costly. You can have a student move out. We saw it in Dunbarton with a transportation contract, that the transportation provider had a 5-year contract. They spent a ton of money within that 5-year contract to recruit drivers and buy new equipment and things. Well, when that came due and to be redone, there was a big increase. A lot of districts saw that. So those are the kind of things that, I think I've always thought that the people who know the best about the school district is the people who sit in those seats, who live in town, who elect you all. They're the people who know what's happening in their schools, and to have some entity, the state, in this case the legislature, impose something on you, a very restrictive imposition, really flies in the face of I think, what makes New Hampshire great, which is local control. And I love annual meeting. People have been doing that since the 1600s. I love it. I have this weird feeling that it's an exciting day because I'm going to see all my friends and people I haven't seen in a while. But I also have this dread that what's going to happen. And it's a weird feeling, and I have it every year. But, I think this flies in the face of that. But that's
we
my
can
opinion.
still, the one thing that we have going for us is that Bo is a very supportive community for our schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in that way, we could very much be okay, kind of with that. With that aspect of it, not with the health.
I think in my opinion, I've always thought that the budget that we do, from initial proposals that we see from the buildings to passage in March, and then actually implementing the budget and finalizing it in another months and months away in the end of June, is almost a There are these chapters in this book. And I don't take for granted that that chapter is just going to have universal approval every year. Like, for me, I think that's the most pressure part of what I do, is that way before I came here, this district built something that is remarkable, I think, and super supportive by the community. Again, I don't take that for granted, that, something that I do or something that we do can erode or even end that trust that people have and that support. And we've seen it in other communities, places that you think have this great support, have something happen, and then they might have this reduction or change in how things happen. So that's kind of, so yes, have great support. Been very lucky. I think this last meeting, like a lot of the meetings I've attended, I thought was great. You guys did an unbelievable job, but I don't think that that's universal and lasts forever. So it might be fine, or it might not be. And it depends on who, what you propose and how you present it and the people who come to the meeting.
Thanks, Wayne.
I have one other question that has nothing to do with that, but have we done the testing for the water?
No, our plan is to do that later in the year when we get everything re-inventoried. So that'll be later in the school year or beginning of summer.
Okay.
And we're gonna
But we'll have everything done and ready for
Yep.
September.
Yeah, that's
If there
our.
are issues, we'll deal with it over
Yep.
the summer.
Yep. And we plan on not just doing the elementary school, we plan on doing all 3 buildings.
Yeah.
So, Yep.
Are we doing everyone or only the ones that
Nope.
came up?
we're going to do it like we've never done it before. So we're going to do every location again.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and we have to re-inventory the elementary because we've added locations, and we've taken some locations out of service. So that building has to be re-inventoried completely. And then the rest of the buildings, we'll just do them, it'll be like basically our 4th round of testing.
So where can the community see those results? Because if you go on the state's website, it only has 3 rounds.
Because we haven't done them yet. We haven't done the 4th round.
So
They'll be on
we'll
there.
have it.
Yep.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dwayne? No. All right. Moving on, Director of Student Services.
So I didn't include any legislation in my report, but as you can imagine, things like a tax cap and open enrollment will have ramifications for student services, so that will all remain to be seen, in addition to the legislation that's specific into that realm of things, right? So we're watching all of those things and prepared to deal with the outcome of those types of things. 2 things that I did want to add to my report, though, about the topics that I put in there were that it's really exciting for me to get together with that AT committee every couple of weeks because it's all of our related service providers. So I do my best every week to get to the building level special education department meetings. We call those core. So I try to get around to everyone every week if I can, and that is a broader group of people. And meeting with the AT committee is really cool because it's really just the related service providers. And for professional development, it can be really hard at times for related service providers specifically to feel as though things like curriculum or broader topics about regular ed are applicable to them. And so I really enjoyed the student services participation in the March PD Day. It was cool to see a lot of them presenting and a lot of them attending other types of things. So I got some feedback that they felt that general education teachers had some great takeaways from the things they had to share, and I really like to see them have that opportunity to do that. And one more thing, when I was speaking to them that I wanted to share about the AT committee specifically is that they're engaged in a lot of continuing education, and many of them are working on AT-specific graduate certificates or have completed those types of things. So as a related service provider group in general, they have quite an interest and expertise in assistive technology, and so I think we're well suited in that particular area to continue to meet the needs of students when it comes to giving them adaptive materials and different assistive technology. One of the things that I did miss in my little list of all the things that can be considered assistive technology are seating and positioning things. So from a physical therapy perspective, that's also considered assistive technology. Things like some rubber bands on the bottom of chairs to help kids move their feet, or different types of seating arrangements, standing desks, things like that. So to help students access their education by having their body move in certain ways is another area of assistive technology that I wanted to share with you guys. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I had one question. Last month, you talked to us about the Promoting Independence program, and I know now that you've gone through, I believe, if I'm correct, the workshops for everyone. Are those all done?
There's one more in the series.
There's one more? Is there any way that we could get like some sort of presentation for us to explain what that, because as an educator myself, I have two sides of like, oh yeah, that could be great, or what does that mean exactly? I think that would probably make family members also feel a little bit better to kind of understand what that is, what that would look like in the classroom. And especially where what we're reading in the newspapers about like people having special ed schools, like schools maybe coming together and doing that to save money and stuff like that. I think a lot of people are just very concerned about how we're going to handle all this legislation, and I think that would maybe make people understand what it's all about before coming to conclusions, like their own conclusions.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm always happy to talk about how we're working with students to increase their independence and what that actually means in real time. I also think it's important, when you bring a topic like something that you see in the news and that we can openly discuss it. So that is important to consider when schools are talking about places where they can help serve students outside of the regular ed setting. It's sometimes because those students have such high needs that they can't meet the need of them in the classroom. And it's something that we really take seriously in Bow, making sure that students have access to their education in the least restrictive environment. And so when it comes to least restrictive environment, that also is the staff that you assign to those students, and making sure that that staff member understands that you only want to support that student as much as they need to be supported, and not giving them more than they need, because that is restrictive. So I think that's some piece of where that independence comes from, and relates to what you brought up about what you saw in the news. So we want to be meeting students where they're at and giving them just the amount that they need, not giving them more or less than what they need. So that sometimes is the environment where they are learning, sometimes it's the way that we're teaching, sometimes it's the staff that we're using to support them, all of those types of topics. So yeah, happy to continue to discuss. Yeah.
I had one. Yeah, it's a quick one. I read in the Concord Monitor that a bunch of Lakes Region schools are thinking about building standing up a special ed school, where a bunch of towns would then send their special ed students, and it would obviously cost share, in a hope to kind of dampen the cost of special education. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's, I think, the same thing that Melanie was just bringing up. I am part of the Lakes Region because that's the group that Marcy was in when she was in this position, and they're a great group of people, super creative and collaborative and thinking about what students need. I think there's sometimes kids that would be not well suited for the special education, the private special education schools that currently exist and are approved, and those also have limited space. And so what often happens is that for a student who needs some additional support or needs to be in an outside placement, it's hard to find space for them. And so I think that's where this group was trying to come to a consensus. How can we meet the needs of our students together when there is no space in some of these private approved programs? So I was not interviewed for the Concord Monitor, and I have not committed Bow School District or the Dunbarton School District for that matter to engage in any collaborative thing like that, but I think it's worth having creative conversation with colleagues.
It's actually not new for the Lakes Region. They've done that in the past. Laconia was a host site for a number of years where Lori would know too. Winnisquam bought in, Belmont bought in, so area schools. And it's not for those super high needs kids. It's sort of tweeners in a way where they need just a little bit more, and schools don't have the space or capacity for it. So it's not brand new. I think it starts to percolate more when when we have higher need kids that we just don't know what to do with. And there's less placements than there ever have been. So it doesn't surprise me that the Lakes Region's doing that again.
Yeah, I think some of those schools, too, are also faced with the staffing concerns that we've talked about throughout the year and having different contracted providers in their spaces or remote services, and so they're having less of an ability to always meet the needs of their students in their public schools.
So I read that same article that Martin read, and it did talk about that, of course, but what I took away from it was a little bit different focus from myself, which was essentially there were 20 kind of local schools besides the Lakes Region schools. I didn't know if we were one of those schools or not. But anyway, I thought it was really interesting with this idea that, let's say, I'm making it up, we have a Braille teacher here or something and they don't. And there's 20 local schools and we're the only one then that has the Braille teacher. And so the 20 schools have, no one else needs to get a Braille teacher. Then we have all those Braille kids come to Bow and Bow does that. But Merrimack Valley has some other, specialty that we can send our kids to. And I'd love to see, I never even really thought of it that way. And I was like, wow, that seems like a really great idea, I thought. And would you have the ability to give us some sort of I don't know, at the May meeting or June meeting or something, kind of a list of what are the things that we can't do here? And I know a lot of it's, we have kids that have to stay at schools away, and I know that's a lot of it, but I'd be curious just what that looks like, and if to the layman like us, if I could look at that like, oh yeah, this seems like something that we could collaborate with some other school, and or just we all end up picking like you do this, you do this, you do this, and because it seems like a huge opportunity there. I really was actually kind of excited when I read that article. So I was like, I never thought of it that way. That seemed interesting to me because I get the problems with you set up a totally separate school. I understand. I see. I wouldn't, off the top of my head, that does not seem the right way to go at all to me, but.
Some of the larger school districts do it. So like Manchester has a program for the deaf and hard of hearing that I know that schools, that they have accepted students from other districts, depending on their own enrollment. But I do think there is some opportunity there, especially with, you brought up visually impaired specifically. For schools our size and smaller, that's not typically something that we would have. And so there was a time before we had someone where we were picking up the phone, calling Concord, like, hey, do you have any extra hours that we would be willing to pay for, or, bring a student for services? So I think it's definitely worth exploring.
Yeah.
I do think, though, it was interesting when I read that article. I decided to go down and look at the comments, so I read it online. And there were a lot of people that brought up, there are history. We have not such a great history with those schools for special ed. There are schools that were brought up as being neglectful, abusive in the past. So I think a lot of people remembered that too. So I think that this is a great opportunity for us to not only educate how this would look if something like that took place, but how it wouldn't look like what happened in the past. Because I think right away there are a lot of, there were parents on there that say, I have 2 children who are autistic and this scares me. And I can understand, they're scared.
I just want to be clear, because we are live streaming, that those bad experiences weren't part of Bow High School.
No, absolutely not. I'm talking about the history of, the United States.
Yeah, so to maybe wrap it up for today, it's definitely an ongoing conversation, but with the open enrollment component on the horizon, I think it's important to remain creative and to think about how other local public schools could collaborate with each other. I know Concord's starting sort of a fleet for transportation too, so what are some of the cool ways that we can all work together to maintain robust public school services? I think that's part of it. And Melanie, just to speak to that particular thing, special education is not a place. It's a thing that we do. It's a service we provide. And so we are always conscious of where we are providing that service, but making sure that the service itself and the staff that work with our students are equipped to give that student what they need is the most important thing. And then we think about where can that happen safely, appropriately, and with the best ability as possible.
And I couldn't agree with you more. But I'm saying, we do also have to know that some parents will be scared, and we can
That's why
help
they're always,
alleviate.
yeah, so at least from my perspective, I care a lot. And you'll see too in legislation, the parental rights is a huge part of what's going on in Concord right now. And we fully support that and make sure that we follow all of those processes. I really value parental participation and encourage it, and also super encouraging of student participation as much as possible too, so that they can lead their teams as soon as they're able to, which is really cool to see.
That's great.
Thanks. Any other questions? Okay, thanks.
All right, moving on to Director of Curriculum, Owen.
So just kind of looking through real quick, just giving a little bit more context to the CIA committee. We're going to meet next week with Ms. Darlene Hench from Connecticut, and she's going to kind of guide us through a little bit more on what they did to revamp their curriculum. But what comes with that is a lot of work from teachers and educators throughout the district. So we're going to have to kind of look at how we budget for PD and things like that, because it's going to take some time and effort outside of the regular school day. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind when we're looking at budgets for next year. And I'm really excited about it. I think we would probably start with social studies, especially with what's happening at the state level and the changes they're looking at, and something like art or PE on top of it, and then move our way down through the subjects. And again, we're looking at a multi-year process, but it's something that at the end, you'd be able to go online and look at the curriculum, look at the units K to 12, and it would just be really great to have that all streamlined. Just jumping forward, Great Escape, we are going to change our location to the National Guard for a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, it's $630 for 2 days. I mean, you can't argue with that. It was $10,000 last year.
That's great, though.
The technology is far better. It's right here in Concord. It just makes a ton of sense. And it makes absolutely no sense, but if you stay overnight, it's $4. I don't get it, but. So just $4 a room. You could put 2 people in one room.
$2 a person.
Yeah. So if you have any events, corporate events, think about the National Guard.
Didn't you say it has a mini fridge and a TV?
It's a bathroom.
Yeah, can you just rent it out for an
I asked.
I think if, what about like bringing a couple of twin blow-up mattresses? You can get at every person $1. You know, like, come on, yeah, right, 50 cents.
And the Great Escape Committee met today, and I'm just really excited about it. Craig Shields from Bedford, we just mentioned him about AI. He's going to present about AI, and then we have New Hampshire ED, which was formerly called New Hampshire DOE. I'm really looking forward to them coming in and sharing all the resources that they have available to us for free. So I think it's going to be great. And we've already mentioned the PD Day, and I just appreciate all the effort that everybody put into it. It was a really good day. So.
Oh, and did I miss anything about our visit to Bedford?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just, like you said, AI is here, and we need to figure out how to best teach students how to use it, and they can teach us how to use it as well. So, but other than that, no, unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Owen?
Sure. I just want to piggyback on that. I heard so much positive feedback about the PD Day.
Awesome.
And one of the things that I heard positive feedback was the teachers that presented. They really enjoyed being able to share their knowledge or something that they were passionate about. So
Yeah, they did a great job.
I think, if doing that in the future too, encouraging the staff to,
Yep.
I know you do that, but it's great.
Yeah, no, I heard the same thing, Owen. Every staff member I asked about it, they were like, it was really great.
Good.
So,
Awesome. Thank you.
Very good. Moving on to the Student School Board Member Report. Anything to add for you guys?
No, that's everything. We wrote it yesterday, so
Great.
it's all up to date.
A lot of positive stuff.
I just want to say that I've heard a lot of dissatisfaction kind of with like the parking situation. That's just something to bring to your attention.
Yeah.
I want to talk to Student Senate about it, see what we can do for the parking lottery next year.
Are there not enough spots, or?
It's just that people are parking, Ms. Barth would know, in places that they shouldn't be parking. and people are, I guess, frustrated with their, like, the distance that they have to go, basically, and that they don't get a good parking spot, so.
It's something that Ms. Barth actually presented about at the staff forum yesterday, so they're definitely working on it.
Yeah.
Anything for our student members? All right. Moving on to our district administrators, starting with Bow Elementary School.
Let's turn it on. Yes, we had, in the report, I talked about the Eddie's visit, and one thing I really would just like to convey is I had heard it's a good process to go through because it really, as a school, brings up how you're feeling, what you're doing, and where you go. And so they were with us on Wednesday afternoon and on Thursday and Friday, and even into this week, people said it was just so great to sit in a room. We had parents and teachers. Marcy and Owen had joined also the subgroups where there were groups that talked about community involvement, partnerships, curriculum, vision, and people just said, they go, wow, we're really doing some good stuff. It's almost like you just never pause to go. I have pictures in there where the students, it's called the student exhibition piece, and in our cafeteria we had from kindergarten up through fourth, kids showing what they do in class. So there were kindergartners who taught them how to play one of their math games. And those kindergartners lasted 40 minutes and had to wait their turn. They did a great job. First graders showing their writing, second graders showing writing. We used how we did some AI that helped level a playing field for some kids when they had to come up with a picture and to express. They were there. A small group of our select choir was there and did a little mini performance at the end. Hope to bring them to see you guys in the future. Our Student Universal team presented. Second graders showed what we did at Bobcat and had them making the knot. So it was a great experience for us. When they were there, they talked about, wow, I can see where everyone really likes being at school here. You've done an amazing job. Your presentation in February was great. And they said, wow, but it's really competitive this year. So I wasn't sure if I was being told, you really did well. You just have to wait. So what happens next is they call the principal of the building who wins, and that person can't say anything until they show up to surprise the school. Either way, at BES, we're pretty glad we went through the process. We're going to celebrate early because we just want to celebrate. So as the staff are going to do that, and hopefully we got there. It's a small state, so actually on Sunday, when I was together with friends, the school that was visited the morning before us, I was with someone from there. So I'm not supposed to know who, but I actually know who for a couple of schools because it's that small of a state. So we're in good company. I was actually disappointed to hear they were finalists. So that's really good. Kindergarten registration, we are at 68 so far for 2568. We're doing another push to get people in. That's not a bad number to be at. I think also, as people have said to me, they'll go, Lori, I've started the registration. Like, if you don't sit down with everything, we really encourage people. I can see Martin nodding.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't sit down with everything, even if you already have children in school, you got to give yourself some time to upload everything. The kindergarten teachers and I will be picking a date in May for families and students to come and see the school so we can do an orientation beforehand. Usually when I send that out, if you're registered, you get invited. That gets people to do that last paperwork piece. So we're pretty excited. Thanks.
Any questions for Lori?
I have one. So Lori, with the Eddie's committee that you had, I saw that you said that there were parents on the committee, and I was wondering how many, and what was the process that you went through to get the committee, the parents?
So the committee, so they sat on the committees that would present on the different piece. I reached out to parents personally and just asked on different, if they were willing to come. It was an after-school time. I didn't put it out as an all-call because the visiting committee didn't want that. They wanted set subgroups. So we had a variety of different parents in there, and we offered childcare because it was after school as we were last. So yeah.
With the committee itself, did you have any parents?
They did not ask for parents. No, I didn't on the original committee, but I had students. And what I also understand from that is I think that made a significant difference as we had students who joined us, and we gave them a significant role in the presentation when we went in February to present to become to this level. And those students were still the greeting committee when the visiting committee came.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah.
My daughter was one of those students that went in February and in March, and I can only say really good things. She's been, like the Eddie's Day when they came to Bo, that was for her moment. Like she
Her
prepared.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, she looked in the mirror in the morning like, I get this.
They were.
Well, she was interviewed in the mission.
That too, yes.
Yeah, she was.
Yep.
Yes. I will say too, so they were supposed to be at our school at noon, and they arrived at 12:25. And we were sweating that out. Melissa was convinced I had the wrong date. So I was like, I do not. And we didn't know they were going to be late. So it ended up working out, because they got to see some things. I'm glad all our presentations with the teachers and the parents were set to be once kids were dismissed. But like when I say kids waited, boy, those 4 kids, Piper, and they were just like, are they here? Are they here? We were staring at the screens out in the parking lot. But it was a great experience.
Awesome. Any other questions for Lori? All right, moving on to Adam.
All right, thank you. I only have a couple things I'm going to mention this month. First thing was, and I'll go on the clock for this. I can do this in 4 minutes or less. You got me. Ready? Go now. First thing I want to mention is the night we had on the 26th of March. And the reason I'm not kind of like our district concert is because I almost think it needs to get renamed. And, Matt, you can weigh on this in a minute when it's your turn, but it's such a cool arts display out in that lobby. The art teachers are doing such a great job. The music teachers are doing a terrific job. It's now blending across 3 schools because you've got the 4th graders art from BES. You've got Ashley bringing all the art over from the middle school, and then you've got the art program here at the high school all contributing, and it's super cool. I mean, I just think it's almost a celebration of arts night, whether it's performing arts like we see in the gym with the band programs or the auditorium with the choral programs. It's a neat night. So just kind of reframing that night for us each year. It's really becoming a celebration of the arts here, and I think that's a kind of highlight just to put on the calendar. So that should be under 2. And now the second point. I'm doing all right. The second point is really about, it's a shout out to Jen Ottolini because she, our school nurse, did just an unbelievable job with this Who We Play For push. And we've never done it before. And all the credit goes to her. She sought this out. She organized it. She did a beautiful job running it. Over 120 kids were signed up for it. It was a neat opportunity for our kids because for $20 they could get a cardiac screening. And unfortunately, it's unfortunate because you don't want anyone to flag as a potential risk, but some families actually are going to get really important information out of this, which is great. You don't want any of your families to have to get that information, but it's so much better that they do. So those are the 2 things I wanted to highlight. I thought those were neat things in March. April's looking like a great month. This is when we begin some of our field trips. Seth will be taking a group with the 8th grade team off to Boston, so that's coming up very shortly. And we have a great 8th grade field trip we do every year to the power plant, where half the grade goes on one day, half the grade goes on the next day. So kind of some of those closer to end of year activities are starting to fire up. So all good. And I think I did that under 4 minutes.
You were like under
2 minutes.
3, yeah.
Woo! All right.
A+.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And any questions?
Any questions for Adam?
I just wanted to say, Adam, I saw on Facebook that some parents were asking of 8th graders, and I could not help them, but all the different things that are coming up that they need to put in their calendars is...
You are asking a great anticipatory question. So each year, right about this time, we start our end-of-year dates and details letter. And actually, next Tuesday, that goes out through all the teams. I shared it with the faculty, I think yesterday. And it's about 50% filled in right now, but each year we do a kind of a grade by grade. Here's what's coming, what time, what date, here's the rain date. And I usually share that out right after April vacation. So I can typically give those dates. It is after April vacation. I'd like to say it's before, but if I do that, I'll miss something and screw it up, so I don't want to. It is coming. And if anyone has a specific question, I can definitely get them that answer. So if someone reaches out to you and says, I really need to know because Grandma wants to book time for the 8th grade transition celebration, that's on Wednesday, June 12th.
The semi-formal?
I think that is May 31st. If that's a Friday, I'm right. It's a Saturday, then I'll have to double check, but I'll do that before I leave. I know we have the last Friday in May this year, I believe, for the semi.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, you got it.
Still under 4 minutes. Good job. All right, Matt.
All right. Sorry. So just to add to a couple quick things, we are going to be able to offer pre-calculus as a dual enrollment course. That's a pretty popular course for our students to complete their math experience. So really excited for that. I want to give a shout out to our improv group. They're called the Taters, and they are advised by Mike and Bethany McKylan. Mike teaches Latin and English, and Bethany is a science teacher. Each year, there have been more and more students involved in that program. They do a terrific job, and it's really, really cool to see these students come on stage and do stuff that would terrify, it terrifies me to watch. I can't even think about doing what they do. So it's just a really cool thing that they offer to our students. And the audience, each time that they perform, continues to grow. So it's really cool, and kudos to Mike and Bethany. And then the last couple of months, been spending a lot of time talking with members of our LINKS staff. Those are paraprofessionals, teachers, and behavioral specialists, related services people who work with some of our students with intellectual disabilities. They do a tremendous job of helping our students develop independent life skills and help transition students from high school into the workforce. We have a couple of students who are going to be college bound, which is incredible. We are really, really blessed to have the staff that we do in the LINKS program, so kudos to them. Any questions?
I don't have a question, just a comment on the SAT prep days. I've heard some great things from parents about that, and I know how expensive it can be to get SAT prep outside of school, so I think that that's really a great idea for our students, and would like to see that continue for sure.
Thank you.
Could we get writing next year?
Yes, so part of our goal, right, was to use this outside company. They're providing some of the tutoring. Our math teachers have also been providing SAT tutoring and have been sitting in on some of these sessions that have been offered, so that then the math teachers develop that. They pick up some other tips and techniques from that outside company, so then next year, maybe we don't need to use them because we have that knowledge. So I hope would be to be able to continue to offer that with writing.
I'd like to second that. That is such a great opportunity for our community. One other thing, when is that performance? Did it already happen?
We have another one coming up, the Taters Improv. It's going to be, June 6th.
And are you going to take part in it?
I am not. But Brenda is.
Yes, I hear that now. We're putting it down in, Wendy, you're going to put that down? All right, it's now happening.
All right, anything else for Matt? Cool. Moving on, Information Technology Director.
Yep, I don't have a lot to add to my report. We had a fairly busy month, not extremely busy, not like September and October, but we had 277 some odd tickets opened, 250 closed. So we have a really great, competent tech team here. Really lucky to have the folks in my department. They're just really good at their job, motivated. They take tickets and work them and close them. So kudos to them. As far as the projects that we're working on, this is a fairly busy time of the year. We're trying to balance supporting the district while also procuring hardware and planning for the following year. In this year, we in particular have other competing projects like the domain migration that we're plugging away at. We have the outdoor Wi-Fi project, which we've kicked off. We're partnering with Arcom Communications to do all our cabling. I'm procuring the hardware and working with electricians to bring power out to those remote locations. So we have our work cut out for us, and feel like we're doing a pretty good job moving forward. Any questions?
I have two observations. No questions. First, I think it's great that finally someone spelled out what hyperconverged cluster actually meant. I work in this field and it never made sense to me. I think it's a goofy term, but I finally understand what it is. It's great. And the other one is that, so we're buying Lenovo laptops. In my world, we try to stay away from those simply because, I mean, we always buy HP. It's an American-made product, and they seem to last forever.
Yeah.
Engineers don't go easy on their equipment.
Yeah, Lenovo has kind of those IBM roots, and it's a popular business machine, but every year we do an evaluation, and some of it's the price point, and some of it's the durability, some of it's how easy it is to fix those devices. Lenovo this year, they've gone to parts that are modular, where the parts, the internal components typically are soldered to the board. With Lenovo's parts, they're able to be mechanically released from the motherboard, so it's much easier to fix for us.
Okay.
Yep.
Chris, I have a question too. As I don't know if all the parents know about this, but we have that software program, Blocksy. And so if a student Googles something or does something that with certain words, then it gets flagged. And then our administration gets informed, like, hey, we got to check in on this student.
Yes.
So my question is what are the different categories for those flagged topics? Like, do we, and you might not have this right now, and I don't want you to feel like I'm putting you on the spot, but, and then another thing too is I'm thinking that, say a student was looking up something that would be flagged, like at 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And staff needs to stop working. Like staff needs to go home, be with their families, live their life. Are there any parameters we could put in where parents could get notified of something in that kind of situation, of some things? Like, do we have anything around that?
Okay.
Because I was thinking that would be a lot of pressure on staff if they think, oh my gosh, they see it in the morning, and they're like, well, I hope everything's okay.
So that's something that we have to talk more about internally, learn more about. There's definitely a lot to consider there. There's not an expectation for our staff that they're looking at their emails round the clock, because of course that's impossible, right? And when they do happen to see that, they do pass it along. It's not just administrative staff, it's some of our school counseling staff as well. So it's something that we can talk more about when we have more information.
What do you mean?
Meaning, I think collectively, our school principals, our school counselors need to talk about what that looks like. And there are some other things to consider in terms of parent use of Blocksy.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I'm sure that in some cases it probably isn't necessary, but like, I was just wondering what those different categories were, like what the certain things were that got flagged too.
So I see some of them. One of them is around mental health. One of them is around weapons, violence, sexual language. Those are, I think, the top 4 or 5.
Yeah, we can get you a comprehensive list of those categories for sure.
Yeah. I think like, it's kind of, it's good knowledge, for
it's a good point.
Parents to know.
Is that English language only? Or does it also operate on other languages?
I don't know. That's a good question.
My kids may know other
Well,
words.
yeah, my kids also, like, how many languages do we have that for? We have students that are bilingual.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's anything outside of
I don't want you to put you on the spot, like,
No, it's-
if I
it's
just,
fine.
we'd like to just know a little bit more.
Okay,
Thanks.
yeah.
All right, anything else? All right, moving on, athletic director.
Perfect, thank you. I'm not going to add a whole lot to the report that I submitted. The bulk of it was on the winter athletics. Winter finally came to an end, seemingly takes forever to do. But again, another wildly successful season, and to view it anything different would be just wrong. We had another team champion and multiple individual championships in wrestling, in swimming, and in track, indoor track, including back-to-back from Hannah that was just sitting in front of you a few minutes ago. So a lot of good stuff with that. Spring is underway despite the weather. Numbers are very high. We continue to have a little over a third of the student body participating in each season, which is fantastic. We do have a couple of teams that are a little bit light, as they have been in the past couple of years as well, so we'll try to figure out how to get those numbers up a little bit more. So working on fields, maintenance is busy, trying to get baseball and softball underway. The lacrosse teams have been outside pretty much since the beginning, minus a day or two where it wasn't playable. So that's been good. The other thing, the news of the lights was exciting last time, so that's underway. I met with the Musco representative and his electrical contractor last week to kind of go over the site plan and how are they going to get the power to where it needs to go, and that's still being worked on a little bit. We were able to use the soil boring report from about 6 years ago, Bryce, maybe? So we still had that on hand, which was good. So they're looking at that. I still think that there's one site, one hole that's going to be a challenge. And you can kind of tell when you look at it that it just seems like there's going to be a lot of rock there. That they didn't drill very deep in it. And if that's the case, then they'll drill as far as they can and then use a cement support to get the pole attached to. So there's certainly ways around it, but I think it'll be a challenge in that sense. But so they're working on that. They're working on a final number for us with the possible start date of right at the end of June. And then that would take, the electrical contractor was planning on 2 to 3 weeks for that. And then it would just be Musco hooking up and getting the system running so that we'd be ready to go for fall season, so.
That's exciting.
Had one question. I know we just started the co-op with the hockey. I was just curious about how the co-op went for us this year.
Yeah, that went very well. There's some hiccups, and it's a little, and I think as I talked about when we approved it, we haven't been in that situation before, and it's different for me to not actually have control over a team that we participate with. So because Bishop Brady was the lead school on that, and we were kind of the third school behind Trinity, not that there's not like really a hierarchy, but Bishop Brady was responsible for handling all the game stuff. We had our four girls, and they played very well. I think one of them led the team in points, and one of the other ones was the goalie for every single game. I think they finished fourth in the regular season and then lost in the semifinals. The top two teams were the top two teams, and then really the top team is Hanover was far and above everybody else. Their record was not indicative of their skill because they play a lot of out-of-state games, so they lost some out-of-state games, but that's all they lost. So it was great. I think the experience was good. We had a little hiccup with coaching somewhere in the middle there that we all got involved in. So it was a very collaborative effort with all three ADs, principals. All three schools got together to kind of iron some things out. And I think it was a good experience for our four girls for sure. I still feel like we could potentially be on our own here within a couple of years. I know the numbers in 7th and 8th grade are pretty high, so I wouldn't be surprised if we were able to branch out on our own, which is ultimately the goal, I think, of a co-op.
I have another question, too. I heard at BMS that there were a lot of boys that were going for baseball, and that they might have to almost, and I could be wrong on this, but cut pretty much the same amount that they're going to be keeping, give or take a few. And I was wondering if we have that kind of interest in baseball. I know like some people, my school didn't have it growing up, but they have like a freshman team and then JV and then varsity. If we have so many students that are interested in playing in a given sport, is that something that we could do?
We have in the past, in fall sports, we've had an A and a B field hockey team at the middle school level, and we went to Tri-County League, and that kind of went away a little bit. Having that many to have to cut from baseball is not unusual for us. I don't know, and I could check with Lauren or Tri-County, I don't know that there's any B teams, any other B teams where we would find a whole lot of games, but is it a possibility? Sure. I mean, anything's really possible, yeah. But, and I know there is a big number, but I don't think it's unusually high, yeah.
Can I talk for a minute? The other piece with the B team thing is the reason we've done that in field hockey, there is a very specific reason. In some cases, if we didn't run the B team in field hockey, we would have been cutting those kids with no place to land because there wasn't enough to do the rec program. With baseball, similar to soccer, because we'll have a lot of cuts for soccer, we'll have a lot of cuts for basketball. Basketball will cut almost, we've had as many for the boys as 40 kids go out for the basketball team, you keep 12. For the girls, we've had close to 35 go out, same thing, you keep 12. It becomes a real practice time challenge where we're not really set up to run multiple teams, especially a field sport like baseball, practicing at the same time. And with baseball, when the kids who don't make it do have a place to land in the form of like Babe Ruth, like our big thing is we don't want to discontinue any child's interest in sports at 12, 13, or 14. Like we want them to be able to play, through middle school for sure. But with baseball, when they do get cut, they don't have any, they're not without a home. Like they're able to play. So it's not that we can't do a B team, but it does get tricky. Like you get into field space issues. We definitely don't have enough uniform. It would be something we would have to budget for. I'd have to come back to you as a board. We'd have to address it in a longer term way. It's not something we could do this year for sure. Like that.
No, I was just thinking like when these kids go into high school, if there was, I don't know, I think it was Bryce that actually told me when he went to high school, there was a freshman team and then JV and varsity. I didn't have such a big school, so that wasn't an issue. But yeah, so when that kind of situation happens, I know like some families, like if they play at the school, right, it doesn't cost them that much money, right? At least not in middle school, right? There are no fees at the middle school, but then they would have to pay. And then do they have time to still join those teams?
Yeah, I think they're set up for that.
I think the issue is it's not something that we would be able to pivot for that same year.
No,
You need a coach, you
absolutely.
need field space, you need uniforms. So is it possible in the future if we had continual years of the same sport? Sure. But and field space is a really, really difficult thing here.
Yeah, that's true.
I just think the other thing to bear in mind, if you do that, you'll be opening a door, which is fine to do, but you'll, like for basketball, for instance, is it B team, is it C team? Because you have enough in theory at least with the boys, year in and year out, you would be A, B, and C.
Wow.
So I mean, and that becomes a real practice issue, which will have ripple effects into your town leagues, because you could have middle school practice times going all the way to 7 o'clock. I mean, it's not a small thing. There's a lot of layers to that onion when you start peeling back. And I don't know if we'd have enough for 2 soccer teams, so it might not be an issue with soccer, because you'd need to be close to 36 kids to run 2 soccer teams. It's usually about 18, I think.
I was just thinking that about and I could be totally wrong, but with the sports thing, like if these kids want to go for the sport, and then, yeah, they can play it with BAC, but then they have to pay for that, and if that becomes a burden. Bryce, maybe you can answer that. Does BAC have a way of getting that fee?
BAC has 2,000 registrations a year. They'll waive at any time. They get approximately 3 requests for waivers of fees. The fees are like $40.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, guys.
All right, anything else? All right, moving on. Anything to add to Beth's report? Any questions for Beth's report? All right. Hearing none, moving on. Action agenda, manifest and vouchers. I will entertain a motion, wherever the packet is.
This will be my first time saying it. What do I say?
You make a motion to.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the
Manifest.
the manifest.
For the
Thank you.
period ending.
For the period ending February 28, 2025.
In the amount of.
In the amount of $4,243,567.34.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Everyone in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving on. Personnel actions, no resignations, no retirees, no new hires, and after this public session, we'll nominate professional staff in a non-public session. Moving on to policy amend BEA, okay, and this is our live streaming policy, and I think what we should do is probably discuss what do we want to see? What changes do we want to see in this policy?
So it's in the policy that you see in your packets. The recommendation, it's in green. That's what Google does, unfortunately. It is that all recorded meetings shall be maintained and available for viewing by the general public for 5 years from the date of recording. It goes on to say, in the unlikely event that a recorded meeting requires an edit to be made to the recording, the approved meeting minutes from the same meeting will be amended and presented to the board for approval with the revised meeting minutes noting the time of the edit and the rationale for the edit.
Motion to approve BEA policy as amended.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I would say that when we talked about it before, I think it talks about the meeting minutes, but if we put something that could be on the video as well, because then people can see, oh, it was cut here, oh, this is the reason why.
I don't know how to do that, but I will talk with Connor after the meeting. We can try and figure that out.
And just to comment on that too, like I saw your comments, Melanie. I don't disagree. I don't think it needs to be part of the policy. Like I don't know how you specify that in a policy where it can be upheld. I don't.
Well, like we said that we were going to have the revised meeting minutes, we could also just put a little note there.
That's fine. I don't think it needs to be in the policy. How would you word that in the policy?
What did I write?
As this is written, it would come to the following school board meeting after the edit, where the board would approve it, and it would be part of those meeting minutes. Those meeting minutes are posted.
Well, and it would be on the video.
Right.
Of the subsequent meeting.
Correct.
Good point. Yeah, actually, that takes care of it.
But the only thing is that it's hard to for people to find.
It's going to be such a rare occasion, I imagine.
It's never.
I think it's.
Never going to happen.
To be honest.
These have been online since November we've been doing this? Like, we haven't edited. I'd like to just approve the policy.
Okay. Any further discussions? All right. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Moving on to adopting policy.
So this is an unusual situation with the change in legislation and the change to the Title IX regulations. New Hampshire School Board Association is recommending that these next 9 policies, these are all related to Title IX, that we adopt those, which is not part of our normal process, and that we allow time between this meeting and May's meeting to allow for you to fully digest them and have any questions or comments on the policy.
Motion to approve all the policies listed in Section D. Wendy, you can grab those from the meeting minutes without me reading them. Awesome.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Did you and Melanie read over them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll.
Briefly, but not enough to really.
Yeah.
But.
Well, some of them are heavy.
Yeah, I did, yeah, I'm being honest. I read them, but
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
but I know we need to adopt them and I.
To be in compliance with the law, we need
Right.
to adopt.
Yes, absolutely, but
Yeah.
I just wondered if you guys are.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on, overnight trip request.
Yes, we have an overnight trip request. I think this is the first time this has happened. It's for next April vacation. It's Tiffany Carbone, who is our food service director, and Jill Pelletier, who is our, bless you, who does all of our healthy cooking classes. And they are going to go on are looking to go to a trip to Italy. April 29th to May 6th. Sorry. And it's called A Taste of Italy, so which is why our food service director is going. What's that? It's exciting, yeah. So they will explore famous historic sites, discover rich heritage and diversity of different cultures, and experience the places that they've studied in class. So the dates, again, are April 29th to May 6th. I don't have numbers, of course, yet for you until we know how many students are going.
Is there a requirement of who can go? Like, do you have to have taken their, like, cooking class?
Part of Jill's classes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And it's all during vacation?
Total over vacation, yeah.
Yeah, no school.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Motion to approve the trip as presented.
I'll second that.
Yeah, me too.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
One more overnight trip request. So our VEX Robotics team is again going to Texas for the championship. That is next week.
May.
Yeah, first week of May.
As you remember, they did this last year, so I'm just looking for approval to do that.
I will definitely make that motion.
Second.
Any discussions?
Good luck.
I'm very excited for them.
That's awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Moving on, board meeting dates.
This, I have in there the proposed meeting schedule for you for the 25-26 school year. The only one, not the only one, the one I probably think that you may want to consider is the August meeting. Last year, I think we met on the 27th. So if the 28th works, that's great. If not, that will be just after we start.
Anyone have any problems with the dates listed?
Not presently. I mean, we'll see how things come up, yeah.
Yeah. Do we need to approve these, or just FYI? or-
It's kind of an FYI. Last year, we bring it here just in case there's conflicts that you know of right away.
Okay. Moving on to grant assurances.
Grant assurances, we're pushing to next month because we're not quite ready yet.
So be pushed. Public comment.
Could I ask about the schedule really quick?
Sure.
It says the August meeting is the 28th. What is that in relation to like the start of the school year?
That's day 2, right?
Yes.
Day 2.
Okay.
No, 25, 26. Day 2, yep.
Marcy, we usually have a meeting too before school starts. Are we doing that
So
this year or no?
last year, I believe it was the 27th. It had been pushed to the 27th because of everyone's schedules.
Okay.
I'm happy to meet before school starts, but
I think last year there was some issue with like last minute hires too that we needed to sign off on.
okay,
So
Yeah.
if we need to adjust it, we can try to figure out dates
okay.
depending on hiring. I should know this, but when's the last day of school this year? Like, did we have snow days? I got confused.
Nope, our calendar is, well,
That's what I thought.
I don't know. I woke up to ice this morning, so.
Was there day, right, I shouldn't say.
I know.
As of now,
As of now, our,
true days versus true snow days, and I was like, I don't think we had any true snow days.
no,
13th, I believe.
yep, our calendar isn't.
Friday the 13th.
It's Friday the 13th, and it's only a half a day.
All right. Public comment? Huh? Moving on to board, committee, and delegate reports. Is this now when we reorganize these, or? Yeah?
Let administration go.
All right, that's right. Usually the administration leaves.
We can't.
Oh, yeah, the non-public stuff.
Oh, that's right. No, you can't leave, sorry. All right, board committees. My proposal would be to just keep them as they are. It worked well this past year. Any grievances with that?
Sounds good.
I was thinking that we might want to put together a strategic committee. So I brought together some things that, I looked at some other schools around us, and there, of course, things are getting cut.
Melanie, I don't mean to interrupt, but are you talking strategic planning?
Yes, so I know the district does it, but sometimes school boards also kind of.
We would like to do it with the board and with the community, and that's part of actually our plan for next year, to be able to put together a stakeholder group and establish a committee for that.
Well, I think that maybe that could be something that we're part of, but I wanted to like show some of the things, like, so Concord, also showing like some of the stuff that they have for, so they also do live streaming and video recordings, so, which is really cool. Some of the different committees that they have, I think, are things to make us think, like, of course, we have negotiating, but, and we have the CIP and all of that, but community relations, communications, and so there's just some different ideas. And then with Bedford, we compare ourselves a lot to kind of, Bedford, and here are also some options with Bedford. Do you have one, Bryce?
I do not.
Oh, did you get one for?
Passed them down and ended up with none.
Okay, there's no front page on that one, sorry. So you'll look at the different types of committees that they have. So they have, like, they also have like liaisons with the different schools, professional development they're part of, an energy commission, which I thought was interesting. I think there's a lot of options with that. They also have, which is really cool, they have a TV kind of show where they go through, and so all the meetings are put on.
So that's
there.
That's not, the school board's not doing that, though, you know that, right? Like, the Bedford has a.
No, I know.
And they stream them on
Yeah.
Bedford TV. Like, Concord has CCTV, and they stream
Yeah,
them on there.
it's so.
Bow doesn't have a.
No, I know, but I'm just saying it's.
What don't
It's,
you know?
no, I'm just saying it's kind of cool, because that could be something that students, high school students that are interested in that kind of work could put together something. They even did interviews with different people, like, so if Jess wanted to, like, give a presentation or something, she could go in and talk to, like, students about that. I just thought that that was interesting. And then one of the things that I noticed, Angela, you probably remember, Oyster River, their school board has won a number of times, like, School Board of the Year. And so I decided to pull up their stuff too. So just to kind of give us some ideas of what other school boards kind of do. And then we could see if there was anything else that, that we thought would be, I thought the energy thing was interesting because our energy, with the solar power and other things, seeing what else, that one student who wanted to do a solar power charging station, not solar power, but a charging station for an EV car. I thought there's a lot of opportunities, and we might want to, try out some other committees.
Marcy, correct me if I'm wrong, but to make a new committee, you have to write a charter, and then the board has to vote on it, and then the committee magically exists, right?
Sort of magically. I mean, I guess it's as formal or as informal as you want it to be, but I think what the board has done in the past is to say, if the board feels like they need a new committee, to establish criteria around that and what the charge of the committee would be. With regard to strategic planning, I think it's very important to have the schools involved. And that's something that we've already discussed about kind of reframing for starting next year. It's a long process. Some of the schools that you're sharing are doing really, really great work. But I think first we would need to determine what it is that is missing. What do you feel like you're not getting?
Well, I think that there's some opportunities. I think one thing is we've had the same evaluation for the superintendent for, 10 years?
This board does not evaluate the superintendent.
No, I know. I know. I'm just giving that as an example. Like, so to just come up with stuff that could maybe work a little better. Just an idea.
Thanks, Melanie.
Yeah.
Thanks for printing all that out.
It's awesome. I like you went to these other schools and checked it out. It's cool. I mean, it's great work, above and beyond in my view. But yeah, I mean, if you see a need, I mean, nothing jumps out at me as like that we're missing a need. I mean, even though they have different committees with different titles at a bunch of these schools, we likely capture those already in different places. But if you see something that you think is lacking, that from those that we should be spending more time with, where we have a breakout group of people, two board members and whoever else we want on a committee, definitely propose whatever you think.
Okay, so I'll go through them. You guys can also look through them, and maybe we revisit this and may see if anybody else has something when you look at it and you say, I'm really interested in this. Like, one area that I'm really interested in is seeing if we can make the areas around the school more walkable and bikeable for our students, especially around BES and BMS, when it's trenched for water drainage, but that's like a safety committee or something like that. There are just some things that I definitely think we could do.
Yeah, I think this list here is never written in stone. It can evolve. Some we have to have by law, but if there's a need, we'll just make one. All right. Moving on. Public comment once more. All right, fine. Board open comment or bottom lines. Anything? Anything from the town crier?
Yeah. I'll go ahead.
No, you go first, Bryce.
No.
No.
Mine's heavy. This is heavy.
Great.
So it comes in with, I've given a lot of thought since our annual meeting about a few different things, and one of them is tied to what are we doing when I say by that, I mean by the budget committee, the CIP committee, and our school board. And are what we doing dictated by the public, or are we saying, I know better, I'm in a better position, I don't care what the public thinks, we're going to go do X, Y, and Z. And one of the things that comes to mind is this BEA videotape conversation, which is where we've talked several times about that. I think 3 people, and this is just an example, but I think 3 people were like, keep them for a month. Who cares? Like, a month seems right. I think Melanie said a year. I was like, I don't really care either way. But the feedback we got from the public was 5 years. And so all 5 of us were like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. We changed our view because, and I think we all think, there's no one that's going to look at this beyond a first year. I mean, I think chances are really slim. But that's what the public wanted, so we changed. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So on the CIP committee, there was an item that came up. You guys weren't on the committee, but the town CIP. And something came up. Again, I don't really get into the details about it, but basically the CIP committee said, I don't think that's appropriate for the CIP, and I don't think we should allocate money towards that this year. And I question whether that was appropriate that we did that or not. And the reason I think we did that was because we said the public's not going to appreciate this. And so then I think of the budget committee, and I think of, we try to work with the budget committee, and, we do a few things back and forth. I think we're all kind of surprised they didn't support the lights after some of the changes we made, but they didn't. And the community was 90% in favor of the lights. I mean, it wasn't even close. And so was that just a miss by the budget committee, or was that I know better, and so this wasn't the right year, and so even if the public thought that way, so be it? And so I've actually looked up like the Budget Committee and CIPs, trying to figure out, say, is there sort of a mission of who does what? And I guess I kind of land at, I think it's kind of a balance between what the public wants and, in some circumstances, the position that simply the information I have, what I know, I may know better, and so I may go against the public, maybe in certain circumstances, but anyone have any thoughts on that? I mean, I know it's kind of deep, but.
Do you mean when you say that is the I like a board member or the board?
The board.
Over the, I think personally, I like having the input of the community. I wasn't like super excited about the lights, I'm going to be honest, but seeing that the community really wanted it, I feel good about it. Like,
That's just one example, though.
right, it is. But I'm saying, I think a lot of times we do make some choices, but I like hearing what they think, because we can kind of guess, but we all are in our own little, like, worlds, in our own little silos. We might not have the same experiences as them. So I think it's great to get the feedback, personally.
So I think about this, I do think about this a lot too. Like, we're elected by the town, but the first 2 times I ran, no one ran against me. So was I really elected by the people of the town, or am I just here by default?
True.
But you want to represent your constituents, right? Like, that's what you want to do. So I always think about this when we come up with an idea and I feel like, I don't know if it's the best idea, or the budget committee says that's not a good idea, or CIP says that's not a good idea. Like, in my mind, and I know we get crucified for it, like the turf fields, we didn't for the lights, but other examples too, educational stuff, new positions, stuff like that. I feel like even if it's not in the favor of some people on school board or some people on budget committee, bringing it to the meeting and then having it shot down is fine. Like, I don't take it personally. Yeah. Like, that's the point, right? Like, maybe I thought this was a good idea, or you thought this was a good idea, or the budget committee thought this was a good idea, so let's ask the people. And I know we don't have a huge turnout at our school meetings, but I feel like if somebody has the idea and it gets some legs and it grows and you make a good plan for it, why not ask the voters to decide?
Yeah.
Instead of pretending you're the expert or the budget committee's the expert.
Right.
Because who knows? It's everybody's money.
But that only works for the really big ticket items, right? There's some,
Yes.
I struggle with the relationship with the budget committee. Joanne, you remember this a few years ago.
Probably.
When we were still going item by item by item by item, right? And one budget committee member looked at, snowshoes at the elementary school. $1,500. I don't think kindergartners can snowshoe. Cross that out. And I'm thinking, who are you to say what kindergartners do or don't do? Here's the PE teacher trying to get these kids out in the winter, which we should all appreciate.
Yeah.
But at what point does the budget committee dictate what we do in our schools?
Right.
Or what we don't do?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the great questions of working with any elected board, but especially a municipal budget act, budget committee. I mean, there are some communities where, basically the budget committee will do, let's just say, some kind of reduction, and basically you guys just figure it out. And that's technically not the way that it's supposed to go, but going into that level of detail, is that how it's supposed to go? It is an interesting dynamic, and it's an interesting process with them. And, I do think that the process that we have now, I think it's a good process. I mean, I've seen a lot of different ways of doing it with a number of different budget committees, and I think this last process that we had, I think was good. I think it was a good collaborative process. I do like going and hearing because I live in a different world, and there's certain things that I, believe and things in it. To hear different perspectives is important. And so if it's in that context, or here, or at a public hearing, or at the actual annual meeting, it is good to hear that, I think.
I think for me, all those levels, the Budget Committee, the CIP Committee, are kind of our checks and balances of kind of where we're at. And I think that kind of informs the voter to make a good decision because they get different perspectives. They get the school board's perspective, they get the CIP, they get the budget, if they are, I guess, paying attention to those different committees and their meetings and such. So I think it's just about getting information to the public so they can make the best decision when they go to vote. I think that's what, as Dwayne said earlier, that's what kind of gives us pretty unique here in New Hampshire, that they come to a school meeting once a year and vote those things.
That's a good point. It does spark always a conversation when you see the vote on the slide and there might be this one dissenting vote or two dissenting votes, and then somebody would come up and say, oh, could you explain what happened and what was the thinking behind somebody not supporting this thing?
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
And that gives them the option to say, this is why I'm not for it, and make people think that way. But even still, it's just more information, right? They can then go, oh, I can see that point, but I still want it, you know?
Deep thoughts, sorry. Maybe you have something lighter.
Jenna, you had a bottom line?
Not exactly lighter. It's kind of more for Matt, but it's just a sort of a thought and a question. So a really good friend of mine is friends with a family who lost their child to a distracted driver years ago. It was on WMUR the other day. The father is now going around speaking to high school students about distracted driving, local high schools. And it's very dear to her, and I said I would mention it too. I showed my son the video and I talked to him about it, like distracted driving is, thing, and I just didn't know if that was something. I have his contact info and we could reach out about maybe having him come and talk to Bohai, if that would be something that you think would be beneficial to the students, or.
Yeah, share it with us.
Pretty cool that as a dad, he's deciding to kind of take this and try to educate, and it's a really nice family. So I just thought, I think it would maybe be a positive thing, so.
Jenna, you said that there's a video?
It was on WMUR. I have the link if anybody, I can send it to you, but.
Yeah.
It's a story about his son and what he's doing now to try to get high school kids to not be distracted while they're driving.
That's amazing.
So.
Yeah, that wasn't very light.
No, but not like a heavy thinking question, just a thought that maybe that would be something that would be good to bring to high schoolers.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good educational opportunity.
A good education.
I think that's wonderful.
All right. Anyone else have bottom lines? Yep.
No, I just want to say, Jenna, so as I drive around, there's a reason why I always ride against the traffic, even though my husband always says you're supposed to ride your bike with the traffic, and I won't, because if you watch so many people passing you, there are, I would say 1 in 5 easily is looking down. They're looking at their phone. Maybe he would want to do something for a parent night too, or
I
something.
think right now he's focusing on high school, trying to hit high schoolers. But.
All right. Moving on to our non-public meeting. Can I get a motion to go non-public?
I'll make the motion.
You got to be more specific.
I will make the motion to go into non-public
Under
RSA 91-A:3. Is that like a 1 or? Roman numeral 2, C.
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote. Melanie?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
Aye.
Martin, aye. All right.
Guys have it.
You guys have it, that's right.
Thank you for helping.
Are we going to go? We're going to go in the other room.
Nice of Nick.